So my name is Scott Matthews. Um, I have many experiences, both on Earth and in space, and I've experienced these since I was a child. Started about 5. I saw my first ET. I thought it was a dinosaur because I was 5, staring at my neighbor's window, and it looked exactly grayish white, tall. It was standing in my neighbor's house. They had like a corner window on the front, and I was playing out front. For some reason that day, my mom was gone with my sister. My dad was going to take me to kindergarten, and I was going in the afternoon for some reason instead of the morning. It was all different that day. I'm playing out front. I see this thing in the window, and I'm staring at it, and I kind of look away to be like, is that really there? And I look back, and it's staring at me and has these big black eyes and really long hands, like long fingers, but a long hand as well. But like, look of death in terms of skin. So I run inside to tell my dad because I know the neighbors are gone. I know that that family's gone on a vacation. So I thought there was somebody maybe like in the house trying to rob it. And I run in, grab my dad, pull him out, and he's like, I don't see anything. It's, just curtains. And they actually went and searched the house, him and a neighbor, and they found nothing. And I was like, I swear to God, Dad, with my dad, I would not make shit up. So my first experience that really led me to question whether or not I was being abducted or experimented on or interacting with ETs of some kind was when I was like 7 or 8. I'm in my twin bed in the corner, and all of a sudden I wake up in the middle of the night, and I know I'm awake, and I see 3 black hooded creatures. I didn't know they were creatures at the time, but they were entities. No feet, no faces. It was a black mist, black hoods. There was one at the end of the bed. So I'm totally blocked off. I was absolutely terrified. So I throw the blanket over my head, turn towards the wall, and then I start thinking to myself, well, I have to get up in the morning. The door's on the other side of them, and I have to go through them at some point. So I'm going to have to face them. So I found the courage, took the blanket off my head. I noticed they were still there. I, at one point, remember slapping my face, being like, and rubbing my eyes and being like, are you sure you're not, asleep or anything? And I certainly was not, and they were not leaving. They wanted to talk. They used telepathy, and they told me we're not leaving. We have a conversation, that we need to have with you. So they start telling me that we can make you really powerful. We can, give you like extra societal status. We can make you a fucking politician. We can make you an agent with the CIA kind of thing or whatever. We can make you a great soldier. You can have lots of wealth. You can live a long time. And I'm just like, okay, and this is all telepathy. So I'm just having this conversation back and forth. They don't ever say anything. They don't threaten me. They're not like anything more than we're going to be watching you. And we're going to be watching you your whole life. And if you tell anyone, we're going to know. We're going to know that you told people about us and what this conversation was. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody. I have no reason to. I don't think my parents would believe me. And they wouldn't have believed me looking back. They would have said it was a nightmare. And I know I was awake. And they continued to, I kind of was like, okay, sure. And, that sounds sweet. So then they end up leaving, and I am like back to sleep. And I don't remember anything until I don't remember them in my life coming back to me until I visibly saw them when I was 21 and then 23. They came back, but they only came back as one. And they were harassing me. And the whole time when I was growing up, I thought, oh, this is sweet. This is fucking awesome. I'm part of something so special. I'm going to grow up, and I was being primed already to go into the military. I come from a military family. Everything but Nam. I've had family members in World War One, II, Korea, Air Force, Army, primarily, Civil War. And I just kept going through my childhood thinking, yes, this is what I want. And then I start learning about the world, and I say, to myself, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to be in the agency. I know they're doing some evil shit. I did not see any face. They had all black robes, completely black. Black is like the darkest black you can imagine. Their faces were like a black mist. There was no eyes. There was no facial features. No nose, no mouth, no feet. I remember saying, like, I'm cool with it. But Ivan said that I did not consent because I didn't ever, like, give in to what they wanted, which was, joining military, joining the CIA. At the age of 21, I was in my apartment. I was by myself. It's daylight, 2 p.m. And I'm really depressed. I'm like almost suicidal. And one of the hooded ones shows up, and it's this feeling of just utter dread. And they use this frequency type thing on my mind where when they enter the room, they don't allow outside thoughts to enter my mind. They block it off. They make me focus on them completely. And this one came from behind me and made itself, like, again, through telepathy. This hooded one came behind me, over my shoulders. I was sitting at the dinner table in my apartment, and I'm just contemplating my life. And this thing starts telling me, we've been watching you. We're not pleased with you. You need to, like, start listening to what we told you when we visited you when you were 7, 8. And I start feeling it kind of, like, grabbing my shoulders and kind of almost, like, not strangling me like we're going to kill you, but strangling me like, hey, wake the fuck up. We're here, and you need to fucking listen. And you need to abide by what you agreed to when you were a kid and when we visited you the first time. And I sort of was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I saw I went out of my body at that point, and I was above the being, the hooded one, and I could see myself and it hovering over me, behind me, and it was talking to me. And I was like this bird's eye view looking at this going on. And then 23, I don't exactly remember the rest of that afternoon. I would consider it time lost, because after that, I tried to basically tell it fuck off, and then I don't recall what the hell happened. I don't even know if I saw anybody the rest of the day. I just remember the next day, like, things were back to normal, more or less. I was depressed still and shit. So I'm pretty sure that they were convinced that I wasn't following their directions because I hadn't joined the military. I hadn't joined the CIA. I hadn't done NSA stuff. And they were like, we trained you. We gave you these abilities. We knew you had them to learn languages. I had studied a bunch of languages. I had studied geopolitics. That was my thing in college. And they were like, we made those opportunities possible for you. And you didn't go out and become a part of a major think tank, policy institute, government, you name it. We gave you this window of opportunity and you didn't seize it. My dad was not military, but we would go to lots of military events. So, like, we had a private tour of the Pentagon at one point, and he was buddies with the former charge of the Air Force, and we're walking around, and I'm being encouraged to join the military, go into military intelligence, use my languages. We're right next to Rumsfeld's door, and I'm like, let's go in, and they're like, no, he's probably gonna get pissed off, and I was like, no, let's go talk to him. Like, I just read his book on the plane, and everything, and I wanted to meet him and talk to him, and I thought, oh well, like, this is totally normal. Like, I know exactly how to run, and I was at the college of the War College in DC for a huge presentation. I met the ambassador to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I was out in Reno a bunch with the air races. I mean, I met nonstop generals. I met Neil Armstrong. I had dinner with him 3 to 5 times. I met all the astronauts. And all of them were always like, wow, this kid, my dad would introduce me as, hey, here's my son. He's, particularly gifted in history, languages, geopolitics. He can memorize a map, draw it for you, skyline, draw it for you. Anything in the world, and flags, he knows them all. And people would always be like, okay, all right. Have you considered the Army? Have you considered the Air Force? Have you considered the CIA? Have you considered this company, that company, Rolls-Royce? But like beyond that, like, Lockheed Martin. Yeah. I was always fighting people, primed to fight. I was taught how to, I was given injections, but I was brought to places where there's like big stadium lights and there's darkness all around, but there's bleachers, there's people watching, and you can hear them clapping and cheering. And I'm told, like, you're going to fight this person to the death. And it's all because you didn't sign up to go fight for us, where we wanted you to go fight. And you've been so resistant to our orders that you're going to go fight for us. And I would hear cheering and clapping. And I remember, they said stuff like, do your worst to these people. And I remember, ripping heads off with my bare hands. I was huge, by the way, like just jacked, like 3 times my size in these scenarios. Those memories are definitely me in what people would call the dream state, but I'm actually awake. I'm transported somewhere. I never was told the name of the facility. It was always I'm fighting one-on-one, sometimes 2-on-1, and people are clapping, cheering, and it's always been very intense, the fighting. And it's been since 23, after that second, that last time where the Hooded Ones tried to come and they tried to scare me. And I had walked down to the basement, and one of them appeared again, and it was speaking telepathically. And this time I was like, fuck you, seriously, I'm done with you guys. I know what you're all about. I don't want anything to do with you. Just, like, you're not there. And I just went to the bathroom, and I walked out of the bathroom, saw it still there, and same exact appearance again, black hood, no feet, no face, no eyes, black mist, and it's speaking telepathically. And I'm just like, you know what? I walk back up the stairs, and I'm like, fuck off. Just seriously, fuck off. And that's when the fighting dreams of, okay, all right, you tell us to fuck off, we're going to make you fight. And we're going to, you're going to be our entertainment, is how I viewed it. So I'm depressed. So I'm like seeing doctors at that point, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And they're just giving me sedatives after sedatives after sedatives, trying to like sedate my waking body. And then I'm losing friends left and right. Like, they're getting pulled out of my life. They're getting like weirdly twisted all of a sudden. They don't want to hang out with me. And I felt like I was being abandoned on purpose by everybody. Nobody wanted to give me the time of day. It felt like I didn't matter. Felt like I was being punished in this realm for my failure to respond and take the orders that I had been given, or the opportunities, I should say, because they always presented it as, it was these opportunities we gave you, man, and you fucking blew it. From like age 15 and below, but specifically 10 and below in age, where I just don't remember. I don't remember family trips, what we did. I don't remember, like, I know we went somewhere like Tucson or Phoenix. A lot of times we go to Arizona. And I never figured out why, because we had no family there. But, like, sometimes me and my dad, we'd go to, like, a military base. We went to Davis Monthan. I see, I don't know, guys parachuting at one point, and I'm like, who are those guys? And get told they're Delta. And then, we also got told right away, what you just saw didn't happen. It was always, my dad always characterized it as, oh, we're going to go look at aircraft, man. Like, you love them. And I did. I loved aircraft. I wanted to go into the Air Force. I found out I was colorblind. And that's what screwed that. And I wanted to fly, fighters. My dad was not paperclip because he was corporate world his whole life. My grandpa was Division of General Dynamics. They owned Liquid Carbonic. And so he was working for them. But I don't have a German lineage. But on my Latvian side, I should say that's my Irish side. My Latvian side, my uncle, he was working closely with Wernher von Braun at the Chicago Planetarium. And he was being groomed to work right under von Braun. He was a wizard at astrophysics and math, science, you name it. He actually dropped out and left the program before they could really get a hold of him. And that Latvian side, some people say there's like connections to the Nordics and the Germanic peoples. Because I'm more Latvian, I have no Russian. And I've always been confused by the Baltic heritage because, like, Lithuania and Latvia, there's no common ancestry, really. I've been in solitary, especially when I was fighting. They would throw me in, they would straitjacket me, sedate me, I'd be drooling out of my mouth. Oftentimes they'd have to IV me again, and then they'd shackle my feet. And this one time I'd just been fighting. Tore this guy, like, literally in fucking half. He's like, blood everywhere. It was absolutely disgusting. And I, like, won, and everybody, the crowd's real happy. Never saw the crowd's faces, but I'm being dragged through this velvet room type bar, and I'm drooling. These two huge fucking guards are dragging me, basically. And I'm trying to walk, but they're like, they're trying to move me along, but they're bringing me past celebrities that we all know by name. Chris Rock specifically, and Alyssa Milano. Chris Rock was doing line of cocaine. He looks over at me and he's like laughing at me, and I remember I'm drooling, and I'm kind of out of my body for a second in that moment, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, fuck these people. I know who these people are. These are celebrities. These are well-known celebrities, and they're making fun of me, but they're also kind of like, hey, good fight, great fight. You kicked that guy's ass, or you kicked the shit out of him. You tore him in half. You tore his head off. You tore his limbs off with your bare hands. And they're just having a cackle because, like, I'm literally something like a psych ward. I'm drooling out of my mouth, and I'm totally shackled because I would resist. I'd break the shackles. I'd break the straitjackets at times, and I'd get out, and they'd be like, send these mechanized guys bigger than me, and they had to control me. In terms of cloning, I've seen facilities. I've been shown when I was younger this 7-layered facility out in the Southwest. It has like 7 cylinders going down into the ground. You start out in an elevator, and starting at the top, you go, down. It gets worse and worse and worse by the levels. There was at the top, like 3-4 layers was like kids, and they were being tortured, and I'm actually walking around with other officers, and this is when I was like, let's go military, I'm gonna do this. There were no numbers on the wall. It was all silver. Really, really dark, shitty atmosphere. Pretty humid, honestly, even though it was the desert up above. It was pretty humid in these facilities, and they did not care about the cages. We're walking around on the top 3 levels, and then the 4th level. We're going down the levels, and I'm being shown around by guys in trench coats. One of them had a black trench coat. It was leathery. No insignia. I had a brownish trench coat on, and then I was with 2 other officers, along with the black leather coat officer, and he was the evil motherfucker, if you could put it that way. He was taking pleasure in showing us the cages, and then we kept going down, and then there's like clones they're showing us of like the hybrids, the humans, and like really weird combinations, like some sort of aquatic thing and a human mixed together. Next thing would be like, I don't even know, like an animal. You take like a leopard and like face, and then you put like a human body with that. And they were all showing me, from like regular human kids, and it just got worse and worse and worse as we went down in the facility. On the 1st level of this facility, we would walk down and we would see like one cage, and it'd be like one kid in each cage. And they were being tortured. And you could tell the looks on their faces. They'd come up to some of them would be in the back of the corner, but some of them would come up to the front. And the officer in the black leather trench coat, he would kind of like jab at them or like laugh at them and be like, hey, look, isn't this kind of funny thing? That kind of thing. I just stayed silent. The smell was awful. And the smell continued to get worse as we went down. And as we went down to the 2nd floor, there was kids, multiple kids in cages, per cage. The smell was absolutely rancid. Just the worst, like rotting smells, garbage. Just disgusting. Like sewage smells, and the smells actually got worse as you went down the levels too. Some of the cloning tanks were absolutely stasis tubes. One of them, like I said, the aquatic / human hybrid was in a water type tank, and the water was like not a normal water color. It was a very blue, like I guess the ocean would be a comparable example. It was almost like dyed blue. And then there was like at times there would be like masks, like there would be like a silver hose and a mask on this one. So they were testing what I understood was, and the officers were explaining this, they're like, look at this one, we're testing, its ability to breathe underwater for certain times, certain amounts of time. The smells, they got like literally fishy, like the smell of like dead fish, rotting fish at that point, when you're passing that tank. That one was huge. Some of them were smaller. Most of them were really, really big, much bigger than the average human. So as we were taking the tour of the facility, and I'm being brought around by these officers, mainly the one in the black leathery type trench coat. Again, there was no insignia on any of us. I had a brown trench coat on, and I had like similar type pants and shoes in color, and we had like turtlenecks. The black leather clad guy, he had a black turtleneck. The rest of us had brown trench coats and brown turtlenecks, brown pants, kind of variations of brown. And my trench coat and the two officers that were wearing brown as well as their trench coats were not leather. And that was a key distinction in my mind. So that when we were being shown around, it was more of a tour of the facility by, the, I guess you call him the executive officer in the black leather coat. And he was showing us what is being done. As we're going down, it gets worse and worse. And we're being told that me and they were my colleagues in brown, the brown trench coats. The black trench coat guy is telling us it's going to get worse and worse as we go down. And you're going to see what our work has led us to. And the way that I took that was, oh, fuck. I could already sense that things were going to get worse visually. And we never even actually went down to the 7th floor, the very bottom. What I was explained was it was completely more or less pitch black down there. And they had beings that they created. And some were like hunter-killer beings or hybrids. Some of them were, I don't know. They were being tortured in worse ways. They had created accidents. The guy in the black trench coat explained. They created accidents out of some clones or hybrids. And he was explaining that some of them were like so aggressive that they just kept them sedated as much as possible. They were using, I asked at one point, like, what drugs do you guys, use? And he said, nothing from Earth. We've got much stronger sedatives for these folks. And the care was terrifying. Because once you reach the 4th floor, but then the 5th and 6th of this facility, the beings are not being cared for. If they're bleeding, they're bleeding. They don't fucking care. They just don't care. And we're walking past some of these guys, and I think we wrapped up the 6th floor pretty quickly. We were shown just a few, and I remember I tried to block out that memory as an officer even. Yeah. So some of the clones, but mainly the kids, tried to communicate with me. They could tell that I was more sympathetic to the situation that they were going through, but I can't disobey these officers. I can't go up to the cage and be like, "Oh, hi, what's your name?" They're pleading for help. They're crying, screaming, some of the worst sounds you can imagine. And then I was shown a very similar facility another time on another planet, but I don't know what planet. I mean, it could have been the moon. I really don't know. It was a pretty dark planet. Not much to the surface. Which is, I think why they put that facility in the desert as well. I was like an officer, and I was like basically being shown the progress of the work that we had accomplished. And I felt disgusted. But at the same time, I understood that there was a deeper purpose to creating some of these clones. And I thought it was important that the work proceed. I know that sounds sick, saying that out loud, but I thought that we need to create better soldiers. We need to create more perfect humans. So the higher level officers wore black. I do remember that. So if you think like Panzer commanders in World War II, they were SS guys. It was always the turtleneck, the black turtleneck underneath a collared shirt, but the insignia wasn't present. There's maybe triangles, but I saw yellow, kind of like curled, and then yellow on the collar. But I don't remember specifics. And I don't remember any inside. There was no shoulder patches. I had like an officer's cap with a brim, and I didn't. Yeah, it didn't really have a symbol on the hat. It had like a bronze emblem, but it didn't. I don't remember anything about the detail of the emblem. I just knew that it denoted my rank, which was very high officer, but not the highest. So when I was 23 and I had finally told them like, please just fuck off and leave me alone, that's when the dreams began of me fighting with weapons that I did not recognize. And one of the planets was all red, and it was definitely Mars. I was using like a bolt action rifle. It had a wooden stock, but the front of the rifle was this silver oblong barrel. And from what I remember shooting out of it, wasn't like a hard bullet. It was like a I don't know. It had like a blue radiance to each round when you pulled the trigger. Something of a miniature railgun. Every time I would take a shot, it would be this giant pulse that would come out, and it was extremely powerful. Unlike our traditional bolt actions on Earth. I don't remember using anything bigger. I was primarily like a rifleman, if you want to put it that way, or an infantry, man. On Mars, we were given so we had helmets and suits. The helmets were lighter than any helmet that Earth has. It almost felt like you didn't have a helmet on. It had a HUD, a heads-up display. You could kind of like see targets that you're supposed to focus on, and it would acquire them, like a red rectangle around them. And then the suit itself was hydraulic to a degree. Although we were jacked, they would give us amphetamines or some sort of stimulant. Sometimes they would give you a bump, so an extra injection, just to make sure that. And it was more than just a traditional stimulant. It was to increase your focus. The suits, they were hydraulically enhanced. They would have like a bar behind your bicep tricep area, and it would run down your arm. And the colors that I wore were primarily red, and then there was a trim of silver, and it would come from here around the neck down like a V, and then there would be like a trim on the shoulder plates. We each had insignia. I don't exactly remember mine. I know it was black, and it kind of looked like flames rising in the bottom was like a circle, and then there was like flames rising, and they had daggers on some of the flame heads, like arrows or daggers drawn. But we were jacked. We were huge. Think Hulk. We were like 7 feet tall. And this was a time where they had told me like, okay, this is your duty now. Like, you said no to becoming an officer. You said no to, all that. So this is your job. And our squad size was max 8 guys. There were some women, and the women actually tended to be more ruthless than some of the guys. They'd like bite the fucking neck out of the enemy. And I do remember at certain times that we'd be fighting something of like insectoids, but I don't remember exactly. Like they kind of looked like ants, to be honest. And to this day, I hate it, insects, and I believe it comes from there. So I don't remember having hair. I remember it being clear, and so I don't remember if you could see the brain. Like I don't think I could see it because I never had any out of body experiences when I was in the mech suit fighting. Um, but it was a weird helmet. It was like translucent. That's why it felt so light, I think. Because like when you take it off, it didn't feel like you were holding anything. It would just disappear. The sky where I was fighting was like a brownish red, very dusty, extremely dusty. There was barely any plants. If there was, there would be these black, like squiggly things. They were like dry, and they came out of the ground, and they didn't like have any, I don't know, like detail to them. They were just kind of like weird black squiggly things that you kind of see, something like that in the Southwest maybe. But it was all black. So there were squads that we were in, but it was always military talk. It was always about the mission. It was always about, we're going to do this movement tactically to gain an advantage over the enemy, shoot here, just commands to one another, talking, barking, yelling, open fucking fire, like get that thing going. And now that I mentioned that, coming back to me is one of those tripod based, it was like a machine gun, but it was a plasma sort of shot that they were issuing from the tripod. So in terms of being stationed with like one particular squad, they'd actually move us around whenever they needed a marksman, and that's what I was with my rifle. The bolt action was like a sniper rifle. In terms of the squads on Mars, we were rotating sometimes, and whenever they needed a designated marksman, I was their guy. But sometimes it would get to become hand-to-hand combat. Depending on the mission, they would just have us run, oftentimes to the point of action. Otherwise, they would use a craft that was very shuttle-like in appearance. It was kind of long, and there'd be like photon, I don't know, things that like you couldn't go past the barrier if it was in flight, but once it was like on the ground, it would disappear, and then you disembark, and it was almost always you're disembarking straight into firefighting and combat. It's really intense. The orders, everybody's just barking. Sometimes there was trenches that we're fighting out of and fixed positions, and we're trying to hold those. Sometimes we're trying to like make, gain ground. And then sometimes, like I was saying, on Mars, it would turn into hand-to-hand combat. And we were all trained in that. And I believe that that's what, why they decided to make me entertainment later. So in terms of being on Mars, the deployment hasn't ended, as far as I know. I still sometimes end up going back and, experiencing fighting. It's transitioned to more of the you're now entertainment. You're gonna fight for us. It's gonna be like a boxing match, and it's gonna be like X level, is what I call it, because it's so extreme. You're gonna be ripping people's heads off, and there's no laws that say you can't just tear somebody apart, and they'll kill you. They say that they'll kill me if I don't fight to the death, and so far I haven't lost a fight. But I wake up, sometimes my eyes fucked up. Feels like I got punched as hard as somebody could possibly punch me in the face. And I know that I was fighting. I just feel like I was at the gym, or at the, boxing, or fighting in the street or something. So I know that waking up out of, what we call dreams or sleep state, I'm not sleeping. I'm exhausted. So I was shot actually fairly recently. I took a round to like this shoulder right in here, the pec, and it actually pierced the armor somehow, which they told us that's not possible. But it's fucking possible. And I remember going back to where we were stationed, and they had this, I don't know, it was like a wand, and it would emit some sort of light, and they'd just like wave it over the arm, and it would like start the healing process, and they'd say like, give it 2 days, you'll be fine. And then they pump me full of painkillers so that I wouldn't feel like it was like a painkiller that would kill the pain, but it would make me really angry still that they shot me, and I would feel motivated to kill even more, like more like strongly, effectively, efficiently, all that. It was a particularly heavy fight, and we're taking like artillery rounds from it was insectoids that we were fighting, and we're taking artillery rounds, and one of them blows apart one of my guys, and we're picking up like body parts, and they can reassemble a lot of these people because a lot of them are hybrids, and a lot of them have like biometric stuff or mechanical, biomechanical stuff in their bodies already. They just have like meat suits, and you can regrow the skin and all that. So we're picking up the parts and we're throwing them on one of those small airborne shuttles. It was a smaller version. It was a medevac. And a lot of us, I know that I helped as much as I could, but I was responsible at that point for like holding the line and continuing to shoot, fight, picking targets. And I wasn't a medic, so I didn't really have that responsibility. Oh man, the food was terrible at our command center, in the mess hall. It was always terrible, and it was always full of nutrients, but it looked like shit. It was like just slop, and then I don't know. There would sometimes be like protein bars, and like it was like very like rectangular or whatever, but like it was like a white soup that we would like drink, and then sometimes we'd have like a beverage as well, and that was like full of electrolytes, full of, I don't know, they'd tell us all these things, and we'd just be like, okay, we assume it's whatever we need to keep fighting. And a lot of times I would just be so angry, just filled with aggression, like I'm ready to go for another mission, like. And that's the thing was, they would take the ones that had the most aggression, and they would just keep like sending them out to the field. So I really didn't spend a ton of time at the command center. It was always, you're going to fight, you're going to the front. Like, we need marksmen, and you're excellent at acquiring. And that's something that I'm remembering. I don't know if they actually put something in my eye, but I know they did work on my left eye, and I was used because I could acquire targets like much faster. So we had access to basically whatever drug you wanted, and the equivalent from Earth. Weed, pills, lots of pills, uppers, downers. When I did rest, I would take sedatives, painkillers, stimulants, just so I could like stay fucking sane enough to go fight, I guess. But constantly being offered pills and tablets and capsules of various sorts. Brothels, yeah, unfortunately. And I've told her about this. Like whenever you wanted to like be with a woman, you could, and they would let you pick. And so a lot in the brothels, a lot of the choices that were available were people that I did recognize, but I've never quite met them in real life, but I know that I've seen their face. Um, and there was definitely celebrities. I remember Scarlett Johansson. God, there were so many. To be honest with you.
Britney Spears.
Yeah, but I didn't pick her. She was there. It was like a bar setting. The brothel was like a bar setting. But it wasn't like a dingy bar. It was kind of fancy, and the women would be like dressed up usually, and they'd look like they're taken care of. Um, they were really nice. Yeah, everyone was always really pleasant, and I don't know if they were. It seemed like they were probably under the influence of something, but yeah. One experience that I had that I definitely tried to escape, and I did escape their grip. I was running. I was wearing a tan, like it was like a prison suit. It was like a tan long sleeve and then tan pants and no shoes. And I'm running and I'm heading down this hallway and I run into this room and there was this table. It was silver and it was ovular in shape and there was like silver underneath, but somehow I was able to jump underneath and hide, and this thing was chasing me. This whitish. It was on two hind legs and then the two front legs, and it was just jumping along. It had like fangs, and it looked like a small gray, like gone wild, and it was absolutely like a banshee. It made this crazy noise. It was like, it was like coming after me, and it's lunging, and so I hide in this room, and the thing jumps up and smashes through the table and appears before me, and I have no memory after that. I just knew I was fucked. I was captured. I wasn't gonna make it far, but I knew that I had to try. And then for that, they were like, okay, well, you're going back to fight. So, how many years was I on Mars? I think it was about, 3 to 5. Eventually, they decided that I was enough of a nuisance on Mars that they thought, okay, we can bring you back to fight when we want you there, when we need your skills. So what I assumed was combat was dying down for a little bit, and they said going back to Earth, or something equivalent of that. And I end up then asking like, okay, well, what am I going to be doing? And they're like, you're going to be fighting. And I was like, I just was fighting. And they're like, no, you're going to be fighting for other people, like humans. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What, like entertainment? That kind of thing? And then next thing I know, they're telling me like, we're going to kill you. You're going to fight to the death or we're going to kill you. We still might kill you kind of thing is what they would throw in just to like make sure that I was really scared and I was really aggressive in the ring. And from then on, it's mainly been me like since I would say 2017 in our time, 2018. That's what it's been, is me fighting others. And they love like the combos of like throwing in, I don't know, 2 humans that they've like taken and they've tortured and they've made aggressive, and they think that they've made them aggressive enough where I won't tear them in half, or like they'll be able to beat me up, but they'll throw a swing, they'll get me in the eye, and I'll tear off their limb. So in my current life here on Earth, I have gone through horrible health problems. I've had autoimmune problems. I've had GI problems that sent me to the hospital. I've had one near-death experience where I was absolutely certain that what they had given me and what happened afterwards when I ended up in the hospital with cardiac arrhythmia, and I had 10 doctors in the room, and none of them knew or were trying to help me after I had gone into a seizure. Never had a seizure in my life. This is when I was 20. And this felt like punishment. And this guy that I recognized his face. He walked in with the paddles. And I asked the doctors, what are you doing? Like, what is that for? Because this guy wouldn't answer me. And I recognized his face. He was tall. He had white hair. He looked like death. And I recognized him from, I think it was Mars. And he was just like this like executioner like type guy. I don't know. He didn't say shit. And that felt like punishment for not saying yes to the hooded ones originally. Anxiety, suicidal ideations, depression, major depression, sleep paralysis, and then waking up screaming, from fighting. And like a lot of times when they're dragging me and like they would throw me in like solitary, I would yell like, "You motherfuckers," that kind of thing. These are the experiences that I've recalled so far having. And I wanted to come forward and share my story. And I think it's really important that we all start stepping forward, even if it is traumatic. So I do have a website. It's anglesperspective.com, Angles, spelled like angles, but pronounced like the German Angles, perspective.com. We have an email there on the website, and you can reach us there if you want to ask me any more questions. And I use a pseudonym on that website. I'm Phil.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.